What up, everyone? So we've got another review here. Another statue, which is something we're very rarely going to see on this channel, by the way, just because they so rarely ever come up. I love statues, but the average person just doesn't have enough space at a certain point, and also they're just crazy expensive. And there's more reasons other than that, but based on those two, it's just something we're not going to see a lot here on the channel. But for some reason, all the statues I've pre-ordered from like the past 2 years have just all of a sudden shown up like this week, which is really weird. But cool for the channel because we get to review some statues. And I know a lot of people have asked for this on the channel. That's things they want to see, so I'm happy to do so. So, this time around, we're going to do the review of Last Sleep's Vegeta. I guess it's just called Vegeta. I don't know if it has a special name or anything. Vegeta statue from Last Sleep Corporation. Now, we're also going to talk about my experience with, my experiences with the company called Avolounge. I'm going to talk about that first. I'm going to tell you the whole story of that because I think people need to know. And then we're going to get into the review of the statue. So, one problem I ran into very quickly about trying to find this specific statue, or a lot of them for that matter, is that there's really no reliable way to do it. Most of these companies don't have their own website, which is really weird. So all these companies have to go through like subsidiaries of other companies that distribute it. It's basically like when you buy something wholesale and then things go to like Best Buy or Vaughn's and then they sell it to you. There's this middleman. So that's kind of what we have to do with a lot of these statues, which is unfortunate because there are so many scammers out there. There's so many people that are just going to take your money. And there's really not anything you can do about it because they're foreign companies and there's just not much you can do. So it's very, very sketchy. And I got the impression of that from Avolounge. But I'll be the first to admit, this purchase that I made, it was a drunk purchase. I was totally shit-faced, and I made the purchase. Not that I regret it. I'm super happy that I got the statue, but the decision to do so, I was very intoxicated. The only reason that mattered is because I didn't really do a lot of research from this company. It seemed okay. The website seemed legit. Like, it didn't seem amazing, but it seemed credible enough. And then they had a Facebook and all kinds of social media, so it was good enough for drunk me to make the purchase. Then a lot of things followed. I told you earlier this year, right before I made this first comeback video at this house, that I got my identity stolen, and I learned a lot of things about fraud and a lot of things about theft in other countries. And when they decided to charge me, I only put down a 40% deposit. They decided to charge me the rest of the money, and the website says, we'll notify you when the statue's ready to ship, we'll charge you the rest of the money, we'll charge you the shipping, we'll have the quotes ready and all that. Fine. So they charged me the rest of the money that I was owed, and I didn't really think about it. I just kind of made the purchase. It wasn't going through on my card, and I called my bank, and I'm like, hey, I need to make this purchase. No big deal. Didn't really think about it until the next day. I realized, why did they charge me the rest of the statue, but they didn't mention shipping at all. They didn't give me a shipping quote. They didn't give me a shipping date. So right away, a buzzer goes off in my head that something's up here. And I start looking into the website, and there's all these red flags going off left and right, and I was pretty convinced that I was getting scammed. I was pretty sure that these people were just straight up stealing my money, and I tried to call my bank to reverse the charges and to report it as fraud, and they said there's really nothing you can do because you authorize these payments. And I should have known, when I was making payments, if your card doesn't go through, that's usually because they won't let you use, a bank won't let you use your card, credit card, or debit card if a company is known for fraud. If they've been flagged for fraud in any way, or if they're known from a certain part of the country or something like that where fraud is prevalent, then they usually won't let the charges go through. And I think that's what was happening with my card. So all these signs that I should have seen that I didn't see, and there was not much I can do. The money was already gone. So I thought about just bailing on the purchase and just letting them keep whatever money they had and not paid for shipping. But I thought, I'll see it through because I don't want to back out on this purchase and then always wonder what if. So I decided that I'm just going to pay whatever they want in shipping, and if they scam me, fine. Then that's what I'm going to make a video about. I'm going to put this company on blast and then just report them all over the place, and then it is what it is. I lost that money. So to my surprise, I paid for everything, and then weeks later, it actually showed up. I was absolutely blown away. I did not expect this company to pull through. And in my research, I saw a lot of other people wondering if this company Avolounge was legitimate, and I didn't have any answers, and now I kind of do. Now, let me be the first to say, I don't know that this company's never scammed anyone, so I'm not going to say they're 100% legit. All I can say is they didn't scam me. So that is the short explanation of it. That's the only company I've seen that seems somewhat trustworthy. But, you know, there's so many red flags. There's so many times I try to contact customer service, and they were very, lackluster about the responses. Most of the time they didn't respond, and when they do, they kind of dodge my questions. So many signs left and right that it wasn't a legit company, but it showed up. So that's one person that got their statue. I don't know about the rest of them because I still feel like it's a sketchy company. There's so much that I've done research on that just makes it seem not legit, but it showed up, so, you know, can't complain too much. So that's my story about it. I know I kind of just went around in a circle there and didn't really talk about much, but things that I needed to get out there because people need to know that there are some sketchy companies and you need to really be careful when ordering things that are overseas. So now we'll get into the review process of that. So let's just jump right into it. First off, the concept and design of this statue. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. The reason for that is I really like it. I think they did a really good job. Now, so many of these Dragon Ball figures, so many of these Dragon Ball statues are from very specific scenes. Not just specific characters, specific scenes. So most of the ones I have are almost like a freeze frame picture of a very specific scene in the show or in the movie. And that's mostly what they are, which is fine. I really like that. I like having specific moments that are really cool that I appreciate it. Most of the time, that's what it is. And rarely they have ones that are isolated that are just completely created from scratch, have no resemblance of anything. And this is the case here. And I like that too because that shows some really good design, some really good design quality because they're not just copying from a movie or something like that. It's still impressive when they do that, taking something two-dimensional and making it three-dimensional. That's great, but there's not much design quality to it or not really much of a concept because you're just looking at something else. For this, they did something completely different. Obviously, the Vegeta character is something that exists out there, so it's not like they created the character. But this pose, this action scene, this diorama, whatever you want to call it, as far as I know Dragon Ball pretty well, and as far as I know, this doesn't appear in any show or any movie, this specific pose, this specific scene. So this is something that was created 100% from Last Sleep Studio. So that's something I enjoy. I like that they do something completely creative on their own and that it looks good. It's not just their original design and it looks like crap. They actually did a good job on it. Some other things to mention about this. So most of these statues also, not just for Dragon Ball, just in general, often when you get an exclusive version or you get the more expensive version, they have alternate parts. So depending on what it is, depending on what you get. Most of the time it's a head because most characters have very similar costumes, but their head changes. I have tons of statues, Marvel ones, where you can just switch out the head. That's what you can do. Dragon Ball, it's very clear that you should do that because they always look the same. Their hair color or shape just changes a little bit. So most Dragon Ball statues have alternate heads, so you can decide what you want, whether you want the regular version, Super Saiyan, so on and so forth. This one came with 3. Now, for reference, Majin Vegeta is my favorite Dragon Ball character ever. I have a tattoo of him on my shin. If you haven't seen it, go check out my Instagram. It's on there. He's my all-time favorite animation character. So that's what brought me to this statue. I saw Majin Vegeta's statue, and I have lots of figures, but I don't have a really good statue of him. So I kind of went out looking for one and came across this. Now, this also came with the regular Super Saiyan head and the casual black hair Vegeta head, which is right here, by the way. Boop. There he is. So you have the option to switch them out if you like. And the hardest part for me is always trying to decide which head I want. I bought it because it's Majin Vegeta, that's my favorite character, but every time I get something, I switch out another head and I'm like, oh, but that looks good too, and I can never decide. So that's one of the biggest dilemmas I have, and I think it's the same for other people. You want to switch them out, but where do you put the extra heads? Like you just have a drawer full of heads that you switch out every once in a while, and you can't do it with statues because they're too easily breakable. Then, along comes Last Sleep Studio. In their infinite genius, they give us this, which probably means nothing to you, or I'll give you a close-up of this. It says Last Sleep Studio, and it's got the Eternal Dragon right there. That's really cool, and I couldn't figure out what the fuck this thing was. Like, what is this? Obviously, it's a stand for something, but I don't remember seeing this anywhere in the statue. And it took me building the statue, which is right here, by the way. I don't know if you noticed it. He found a home right away. He's right there. I figured out what this was, and I'll show you. Ready? Boop. Magnetic stand. So it's not just on there, it's held by a magnet, and now you have this as part of the display. So you can put this next to the statue, or you can put this somewhere completely different. It's its own statue now. And it's really cool because with most of these statues, you know, once I put the box back together, it goes in the attic or in storage, and you don't see it for years, so you couldn't really put a head back in there because you don't have easy access to the box. So now, I don't have to just have them rolling around somewhere. I can actually put them on the stand. I've decided to put them in front of the statue as part of the display, but I could easily put this somewhere else, anywhere else in my room, and just have it be its own thing. I will admit, it's a little weird that it's just the head. I almost wish it was more of the upper body, so it made more of a statue, but I'm still appreciative of that nonetheless. So I think that was a brilliant idea. I really think that's a fantastic idea, and I'm blown away now that I've seen this that no one else has thought of that. No one. There's one other company, actually. There was a separate Majin Vegeta statue, which I don't think was Last Sleep. I don't know the company off the top of my head. One that I also wanted to buy where you could switch out. It was his torso and his, like, one of his arms, switch out from the statue, and then that became a separate bust. So that was two statues in one, which I really liked. Missed the sale on that, bummed about that. So that was one company I also saw do that. But Last Sleep, they have been doing that with all their statues. So I saw they recently did Goku and a Vegeta statue, which had a way better base with the Eternal Dragon wrapping around. Same concept, same idea, where you can take the additional heads, put them on a stand, and display them however you want. And if you want to switch them out whenever you feel like you get tired of seeing one version of it, switch out the heads, put that one on display, put that one on the statue. Great, that's fantastic. That's super awesome and a great idea, and I can't believe more companies aren't doing this. So I feel like every company should do this from now on, especially with Dragon Ball figures, because switching out the heads is very common. So I think all statue companies, even the cheap ones, the PVC plastic ones, they should do the same thing. Those additional heads, maybe make it a torso that switches out and have that be a separate statue. That would sell so much more because it's a brilliant idea. So bravo to you, Last Sleep Studio, for really making that a possibility and putting that idea out there. It's such a good idea. So they got definite points for doing things like that. And also, really little subtle things, like we got this little plaque. Nothing special about it all. It's literally just a piece of metal, but it says their company name. It says what figure it is, which is cool. It says what size it is, 1/4 scale, which is nice. But more than anything, you can't see it. Hopefully I'll put a picture of it. It says the edition. It actually is engraved in there. Mine is very high. 614 of 697. So very important. So many companies don't put the edition number on there or put it on a piece of paper, which is easy to lose. This has a clear plaque giving it its name, giving it its value. That's a great idea too. You want to know what the edition is because that's where it gets its value from. If there's 10,000 of them made, it should say that, but then you know. This one had a very low edition, which I'm surprised by the way. I think that might just be the 1/4 scale. I think they made more of the 6 scale, but 697 is not that many. That's not very many statues they made, and I know for sure it's legit because there's an engraved plaque here, and they went through the trouble to do that. And it has the title, which is Vegeta 4, apparently, which I did not know. I don't know why it's number 4. But anyway, I think that was a great idea too. A nice little plaque to keep or to put on display so you have that as reference. I think that's great. And then they had the switch out hands, which I think they should have done little plaques for this too. Like, why not? Like, why not have some hands on display? I don't know. Like, I think they should really take advantage of this concept they have. Put all the additional parts on plaques. Sure, like, why not? That was cool. I like that you get the option of separate hands. I like that. One thing that I didn't like about the design of it, and again, nothing big, I shouldn't say complaints, I'm not complaining by any means. All the negative things I have to say about it are very nitpicky. I'm not complaining at all. I love this statue to death and everything I have, love it all, but I'm trying to do a review, so I do have to mention things that catch my eye, whether they're positive or negative. I just don't want anyone to get any impression like I'm complaining or anything like that. But one thing I didn't like as much that caught my eye was the energy around Vegeta is that, like, goldish orange color, which is very common in Dragon Ball, but the blast coming out of his hand was blue. Now, I know that happens sometimes in the show where those things don't quite match up, but, you know, it did bother me a little bit in this one just because I like the blast version of the hand just because it's so much more epic, but at the same time, I don't know, it bothered me when I looked at it just because it didn't match color-wise. It was so off, and I thought to myself, like, why didn't they make that the same color? See, they did this additional hand right here, and this has some of the gold color energy, so why not do the blast out of that? And the same thing where this energy here has that, like, sort of like lightning texture to it, and when you watch the show Majin Vegeta, that's the energy he has. It's much different than all of his other versions. Like the regular energy is that whooshing thing that you have on the statue here, but Majin Vegeta had this electricity, so why didn't they do that around his body or that in his blast? So it was little things like that. It's like, well, why did they do that? Why didn't they match the colors? Like, I get why they didn't do that around the whole body because they have to switch out heads and it's not always Majin Vegeta. But at the same time, I feel like they should have matched up the colors on those two things. Again, real nitpicky, subtle things that it's not a big deal, but things that I noticed that I think they should have done. So I think they should have kept it all blue or maybe all orange or maybe related the colors closer to that. No big deal, but that's why I got an 8 out of 10. Really amazing stuff. Not an original character, not an original thing completely, but an original pose. So that's why I got an 8 out of 10. Not perfect, not mind-blowing, but still very well done. Next, on to the execution portion of it. And this is going to get an 8 out of 10 as well. The reason for this was because it's very well done. You're seeing pictures or video or something that I'm posting of it around here right now that you're looking at, and it is amazing. And it's very well done. And there's a lot of very specific pieces. There's a lot of texture on it. His outfit is completely textured. Nothing is solid or smooth whatsoever. Older Dragon Ball statues you look at, everything is just absolutely smooth, but this has some texture to it. They're obviously guessing at it because you can't see that texture in any of the cartoons or movies. But, you know, I think it's a good concept for it. Same thing with the X-Men Sentinel thing where all the characters have that, like, crosshatch pattern on their outfit, suit, whatever you want to call it. So Vegeta has that. All the texture in the muscles, all the points of the whooshing, of the energy swirling around, and the whole breaking out of the, I'm assuming it's either the Capsule Corp ship, was what it looks like, or it's that or one of the Saiyan capsules from the first few episodes of Dragon Ball. One of the two, doesn't matter. The whole concept of breaking out of that, very sharp edges, very clean cut, that's all very well done, absolutely magnificent, but didn't get a higher score because, honestly, a lot of the pieces didn't fit together, which is a big deal with these kind of statues. And I mentioned that briefly with the Sentinel I did the last review on, that some things didn't fit super well, so it was kind of hard to get it in there. And the problem you have is when joints don't fit together like that, it just instantly scratches it up. When you're trying to, you can't see and you're trying to get the peg in the hole, it just wrecks it. Even a few tries, it just completely tears it up. Same thing happened with the Sentinel. The paint just got ripped up. Not a big deal because it's like underneath a foot, but it's still, when you resell it, you have to show that damage. Same thing here, things just didn't line up, and to this very moment that I have it set up, things didn't go in all the way. So there's his back foot, just didn't go in all the way, so it's still kind of hanging out a little bit. I could not get it in. So one thing that is neither a positive nor a negative, it lights up, and hopefully I'll be showing a picture of it lit up right now, which, you know, I usually don't like. Not because it doesn't look good, it looks great. But you gotta realize, like, how often do you really have your statues that light up actually lit up? Pretty much never. Because for the most part, they almost never have an AC/DC plug. They're never going straight into an outlet. Why? I'm not totally sure. But they almost never do that. Like 95% of the time, it's a power pack. And the power pack is usually batteries. Sometimes it's a rechargeable pack, rarely. Most of the time, it's just batteries. And the problems with that is that it's highly likely to corrode. If you leave it plugged in and leave batteries in there, it's very often can corrode, and if it gets into your statue, that's a real problem. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is just that sometimes the way they do light up stuff, it just doesn't look realistic, and I'm not a big fan of that too. So mostly I don't like it. Again, not because of how it looks, just the functionality of it. Luckily, thank God, they didn't do his hair light up, because most of the Dragon Ball statues that light up, they do light up hair, and it looks so stupid. So I'm so happy they did not do the hair. Thank you, Last Sleep. But, you know, the rest of the stuff does light up. So the problem with that is the blast coming out of his hand lights up. So you got to realize that there has to be a connection from his hand to his palm, all the way through his arm, through his body, through the leg, through the base of the statue, and to the power pack. Meaning, when I put this statue together, much like the Sentinel, it came in 50,000 different pieces that I had to connect. So it's hard enough getting like a ceramic statue or polystone, porcelain, whatever, to get it to fit perfectly when they do it, because the same problem with the Sentinel, they often measure it and sculpt it out and don't account for the paint. So the paint often gives it a little extra depth, so it doesn't always fit in on its own. Now when you have a cable, like a solid plug cable that has to go through too, now it makes it even more difficult. So all these pieces already kind of didn't line up perfectly, and then you put the like solid cable that you had to put through there, and it was so difficult to line it up and get it in there, and it still didn't really quite match up. And you can't like jam it in there like you would something else because it's so gentle. If you put even a little pressure, it'll snap and crack, and then it's ruined forever. So that's why the execution gets a little bit of a lower score. Not low, still 8 out of 10, but that's something that I think all companies have to be aware of, that just it's very difficult to do, and this is an example of where it didn't come out perfectly. It's still lined up enough to where it made the connection to light up, and it still looks fine, but it bothers me because I know when I look at it, I see the foot is like raised up a little bit and it's not connecting, so things like that bug me a little bit, and it might bug you as well too. Other things. Some of the parts in here, they did a good job, by the way. Older statues have no magnets in them. So it's literally just like putting something in and just letting it stand. If you shake it at all, pieces will just come out. And I have a Majin Vegeta versus Goku statue. Happens all the time, and it's been broken so many times just because they pop out. It happens. So this company did really good about doing magnet bases, which I think all companies should. Like I said with this one, it goes in really easy. You hear it click. It's in there. Won't come out. So most of the parts have that same situation with the head and with a lot of the arms. They're stuck in by magnets. Great. Perfect. But not all of them are. Some of these whooshing effects are not held in by magnet, and they're not balanced at all. So you see the shape of them curving around, and they're just plugged in at the base here, and it's like, this is very unbalanced, especially without magnets. And there's a lot of pieces in there that are just barely in there. They didn't dig it deep enough to really sink it in, so it's just like barely like held in, leaning there, and I had to like balance and like let go. And if there's any vibration, if someone bumps that table, it's for sure coming down. And I don't really know what to do about it. I don't want to glue it because it's going to ruin the statue, and I don't want to have a big chunk of these whooshing effect missing. So that's kind of a bummer there. So I have a feeling this is going to break, because if there's any earthquake or someone slams a door, I feel like it's going to pop, and those are so gentle. It's like glass. It's going to shatter into a million pieces. Hasn't happened yet, knock on wood. You couldn't hear that. But so that was a problem I had with it. So many things are just barely held in there. And a lot of the effects that are like the energy going around his body parts and stuff like that, same thing. No magnets whatsoever. And I understand to a point, because on the really small pieces, you couldn't put a magnet in and make it fit. But again, they're just barely in there. So if you were to like tap it, it'd fall right off. So that's why it gets a little less points on the execution. All right, now on to the price. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. So this one's kind of hard to judge on, because one thing I didn't mention, and one thing that I would still say I'm not sure about ordering from Avolounge, is because I paid a crazy amount in shipping. The statue on its own only cost about $500, which is a really good deal, by the way. That's crazy cheap for something that big. Quarter scale statue for $500. That's unheard of. Sideshow would sell it for like 5 times that. So that's great, but the shipping was about $500 as well. So the shipping costs around as much as the actual statue, which is fucking nuts, man. That's so crazy. And I think I know part of the reason why, and it's that same thing where Last Sleep, again, as far as I know, doesn't have their own website, doesn't sell things directly, which they should, by the way. If you're watching Last Sleep, sell your own statues. Don't go through these other people. But so they have to send it to someone else. The company Avolounge is based in Singapore. I'm pretty sure Last Sleep is in Japan. I'm not 100% sure, by the way, but I'm guessing it's somewhere around there, Hong Kong, somewhere in Asia over there. and then it has to go to Singapore, which isn't crazy far, but that's 2 points. So it has to get shipped to Singapore and then get shipped to me, which is 2 separate shipping charges. So I'm pretty sure Avolounge charged me both of those, which again is stupid. Like, if I'm ordering, why don't you just contact Last Sleep and have it sent directly to me? It may not be a lot cheaper, but it definitely would be. Shipping once is always going to be cheaper than shipping twice, no matter what. So that's why I feel like it was so expensive, because this thing was huge, by the way. The box on this Vegeta one was bigger than the one on the Sentinel. I almost couldn't get it in a car, like a full sedan, the whole back seat. I couldn't get it in there because it was so freaking big. So I understand why it's that expensive to ship this statue, but there was no reason to have it shipped to Singapore Avolounge and then me in Southern California. It should have just gone straight to me, avoid the middleman. So I think that's why the shipping was more. So that sucks, but at the same time, what's the other option? I've looked at prices on eBay, and they're not much different. And again, all these companies on eBay, they seem so sketch. Every listing I looked at for this specific statue was so sketchy. Like, they're so vague about it. They say, like, quarter scale, 6 scale. It's like, well, which is it? And they give a price, and they're just so vague on everything. It's like, everything about the statue, all these people seem like scammers, and I don't know if they are or not. So it's hard to judge what the price is going on eBay. And some prices, I only found one listing that legit said the quarter scale version, and that was like $1,500, like, because people do a crazy markup because they want to make a profit. So it's hard to say what the actual price is going for, because I doubted Avolounge. I didn't think they were going to send it, and they did. So if these eBay sellers are legit, then, you know, I overpaid, and you could probably get it a little bit cheaper, probably around $900. So that's kind of what I'm judging at. I paid $1,000. I'm guessing if you did research and bought it, you could get it around that $900, $1,100 range, and that's what I'm basing it off of. So that's still worth it to me. It's a bummer thinking that you could have saved on shipping, but even still, the full $1,000 price I paid, I think it's worth that. If I saw this statue from Sideshow or another company, they probably charge more. They probably charge more in the $1,100, $1,200 range. So I think it's a legit good price, but, you know, not a great price. If I could have gotten it direct from the company at that $500 and not paid shipping somehow, then that would have been an amazing price. That would have been a mind-blowing price, and it's really amazing. But I still think it's worth it at around that $1,000, because I've seen ones from other companies that are lesser in quality and smaller in size go for around that price. So I think that's really good. And the fact that they have all the light up features to it usually always ups the price and the value, just because it's harder to make that. So I think it was worth it, but not crazy worth it. I think I really overpaid on shipping, but at the same time, I don't know if I had another choice. And there was 1,000,001 other companies that I Googled that were selling the same thing, and they all could have been scammers, so who knows? So that's why it makes it a little hard to judge the price on that, because I don't know which prices I can trust. Yeah, so that's the price on that. Now on to the collectability. This is only going to get a 6 out of 10 for a few reasons. Back to the price, where it's hard to judge exactly what it's worth, because I don't know who's legit and who's not. But also, I don't see this going up in price a lot, only because there are so many Dragon Ball statues that are being made. It seems like every other day some company is making a new one. And years ago, Majin Vegeta has always been my favorite. Years ago, there was like nothing. The only thing they had that was Majin Vegeta was the original action figure from the 90s, and that was it. And in the past, like, year or two, now there's like 50 different statues, and there's all these companies from like Crane King and stuff like that constantly putting things out, so they're really flooding the market. So for that reason, I don't see this going up in value significantly, just because there's so much out there. But it doesn't get below a 5 or anything like that, because it's still really an amazing statue. Because I do, honestly, it seems like every month another company is doing a different statue of Majin Vegeta, but they're all not great. I've only seen one other one that I thought was truly amazing. They're all just okay, and I like them, but they're not amazing. This one is amazing. This one is extremely well done. So I don't think there's any chance you would lose money on this if you bought it and resold it. I don't think you lose money, because it's just so damn well done. The only problem I would see is that if you kept it, keeping it from breaking, because it is very fragile and not very well put together. So that's where it gets that 6 out of 10 range. I do think it'll go up in value a little bit, and I don't think it will ever go down like past what you paid, so I do think it'll increase a little bit over time, but again, a small amount, because there are just so many of them. But this Last Sleep company is doing a great job. I looked at some of their other statues. They're really fantastic. I don't know how long they've been around specifically. This is the first I've seen of them. I keep pointing this way. First I've seen of them of this statue. And they could have been around for years for all I know. But this is, I've seen this one. I saw Goku. And then I saw Vegeta. All the same, similar concept. It's one character, 3 switch-out heads, light-up array, the whole thing, and the additional headstands. Very similar concept. That's all I've seen. But for all I know, they've been around for years. But I think this company has a lot of potential because they're doing things no other company is. They're creating things that no other company has done before and doing new ideas like this headstand. They may not have been the first one to do it, but they're doing it way better than any other company I've seen. So I see a lot of potential there. So I hope this company does grow, and I hope they start their own website so we don't have to go through all these sketchy third-party companies. Because after I've gotten the statue, I totally want another one. But just thinking about how much I stressed about this one, it was not worth the stress. Worth the money, not the stress, because I'm not kidding you. That whole story I told, I legit thought it was not coming. I thought I would just pay the money so I could at least report to you guys that it was a totally fake company. And I'm still not convinced that they're not scamming people, but, you know, that's just my experience. So, overall, I did not average this. Fuck me. I need to prepare more for my videos. Let's do this real quick. 8 plus 8 plus 7 plus 6. So, what? Oh. Equals 7.25. Yes, I know. I need to prepare more for my videos. I'm terrible about this. 7.25, which was the exact same score the Sentinel got. So that's the overall score for it. And sorry I had a long-winded explanation about Avolounge, but I needed to talk about it because I needed people to know that there are a lot of scammers out there, but at the same time, this is one of those rare situations where I actually didn't. I usually have terrible luck and I end up being the victim, but this is one company where I was wrong. I misjudged someone. I thought they were going to steal from me, and they legit didn't. So that may help you out. That may help you find statues. That may help you research companies, and maybe you'll buy from Avolounge because of all the companies, you know at least one person that got a successful order from them, and that's a lot better than a lot of the other companies you find on Google. So if you are having trouble finding a statue that you can't find anywhere in America, you can try Avolounge. I'm not going to give you my 100% guarantee that they won't steal from you, but you have a better chance there than a lot of other places. So this has been the Last Sleep Vegeta number 4, as they call it, from Last Sleep Studios. This was the quarter scale, if I didn't mention that, of it. They did a 6 scale as well. Let me know what you thought. I'm sorry for my long explanation in the beginning, but let me know what you thought about it in the comments. What do you think about this statue? Have you any experiences with Avolounge? Do you have any experiences with any other company? Would you recommend one? If so, please mention it in the comments. So this is what the point of these videos is, to help people out, to guide people in the right direction so we don't get money stolen from us, so we don't get scammed. So let's help each other out and put it in the comments. Other than that, I'm not sure what the next video is going to be, but you'll see it next week. I'll be here, as I always am. So thank you all for watching and supporting. I'll see you next week on next week's video. Majin Vegeta, 7.25 out of 10. Love you all. Peace.